I guess, my final ETH question, it's just kind of like general, is because, that's totally cool. You said you're more interested in something, long-term investments. You're not interested in the smaller caps. I'm sure you have read this, but like, have you ever, like, I'm sure you've seen Ethereum investment theses. Like the two I'm thinking of are Kobe from Up Only went on Three Arrow Capital CEO's Uncommon Core podcast, gave his ETH investors thesis. Twitter handle Squish Chaos gave a long report alleging that Ethereum could hit like 73K by 2023. It's not about the number, that's arbitrary. It was more about the reasoning. Like you said, like a lot of these bigger caps aren't going away anytime soon. What do you think about the Ethereum investors thesis going into ETH 2.0 and maybe a couple years after that?
Yeah, again, it goes back to what are you optimizing for, right? And so if you're simply optimizing for what is going to go the highest, the fastest, right? I talk a lot about like this barbell strategy I have. So Bitcoin, let's say that that's the most conservative asset in the industry. It's the most durable. It's the one that people believe is most likely to be around for the longest time. But from a upside, like volatility standpoint, super volatile compared to traditional assets, actually not nearly as volatile as, let's say, the long tail of other things. And so if you're optimizing for durability and almost protection of your wealth, Bitcoin is this amazing thing. And oh, by the way, as the world reprices it, like it will likely do very well as well from a US dollar return standpoint. If you want the greatest upside, like forget Ether or anything in like the top 10, like just let's go to the Bitcoin casino, right? Like, and not in like a negative way. It's just like, if that's your game, is like, hey, how do I get 1000x, right? There's things that are way out on the long tail that are much more likely to do that than I would say kind of these things in the middle. And so I don't actually believe most people are willing to do that, right? I don't think people are willing to go and make like the casino bet on 1000x's consistently, because 1 out of every 100 works and people don't have the stomach to survive 99 losses, right? Like a lot of people think that they can do that, but they can't. And so when you think about something like Ether, I think that what ends up happening is there's, my understanding, 3 separate investment theses that people have. One is like, it's like, I'll call it like the world computer thesis, right? Everything's gonna get built on top of it, et cetera. The second is what I'll call more of like an ultrasound money, right? It is kind of the meme that's used there. And then the third, and it's related to the first two, but I would put in a separate category, is like a market structure, right? Hey, a bunch of people are staking this, we're burning. And so like the kind of supply squeeze thesis that people are talking about with Bitcoin, like could happen with ETH. And I actually think that ETH could go up and all 3 could be invalid, right? Like the world computer could not happen, the ultrasound money could not happen, and the supply squeeze could not happen, and ETH will still go up because institutions just say, hey, this is the next second biggest asset. So if one goes up, the other one will go up, so I'll buy, right? Or it could go up because the other 3 things are all true, or one of the 3 things is true, whatever. And so to me, it's less about like, is one individual thesis correct? And it's more so when you take the totality of all of the thesis and you look at them and ask yourself, is it a probability that ETH will go up in the future? I just back out and I say, I don't think there's very many things in the top 10 that are going to go down in the future. Like to me, it's just the tailwind of the market ends up taking over. And so, of course, ETH is in there. Now, one thing that I do think people in this kind of investing world, it's a little bit more, it feels like more like Wall Street when people are talking about like investing in liquid assets, more so than like the venture capital community. One of the key things, and I apologize because I don't remember who said this, but I think it's so good, is, when a bad team meets a good market, the market wins. And when a good team meets a bad market, the market wins. And so it's the same thing here, which is just, I actually think the sector bets on crypto or Bitcoin and crypto, however you want to describe this whole world, is just so ridiculous, like strong tailwind, that if you look at it over a long enough period of time, you're going to have been pretty bad at investing and made some like pretty significant mistakes to have not benefited from that tailwind. Now, if you don't follow timeless investing principles, you could blow up tomorrow, right? But if people are basically building any level of risk management into it, if they're having long time horizons, they're not trying to be a day trader, if that's not their specialty or whatever, like all of that stuff, I think will work to their advantage. And so bringing it back to ETH, it's like, I tend to think there's just a hard argument as to like why the price won't go up. And I actually don't hear, even like the hardest core Bitcoin believers in the short to medium term, I don't hear, or I don't think anyone's told me that they believe ETH is going to go down in the short to medium term. So it ultimately then goes to like, well, where is the real debate, right? And I said to somebody actually on Twitter this morning, I said, I haven't heard anyone ever say ETH isn't a $350 billion network. Like, no, the market decided that's what it's worth, right? At the moment. And so I think it's hard to debate like facts in the current time. Where the debate happens, what's going to happen in the future. So the proponents of ETH will say things, around proof of stake. They'll say things around the burning of ETH and kind of all of the upgrades. They'll say things around staking or other things that will be built on top, etc. The critics will say, oh, that's bad, or ETH is going to become centralized, or the burning isn't guaranteed forever, or there's a variable monetary policy, like all this stuff. I have no clue. I have opinions in terms of the likelihood of the incentives, right, where ETH has to pursue efficiency because it has to compete with so many other smart contract platforms, and ultimately performance will end up being more important than decentralization. But like, who am I? I don't know. Right. And so when you get in that world, to me, that is a world that's really, really hard to kind of unpack. And so I just choose not to participate. Like, it's not intellectually interesting to me. I don't spend time thinking or reading about it. And so like, if I'm not willing to spend mental energy on it, why would I go spend capital energy on it? Right. And so it's like, you guys see what I tweet and talk about all day. It's like, literally, I think about Bitcoin all day long. And so, of course, your capital is going to flow kind of like your interest or your mental energy. But if somebody said to me, hey, I think ETH is going to go down tomorrow, I would have a pretty hard time, reconciling the like almost like security selection with the industry tailwind. Like those two things would seem to be at odds with me. And that's true of, most of the large caps.
What you said is true. A huge Bitcoin proponent. It's awesome whenever you go on CNBC or tweet about it. But I do happen to know that you are a reader of the Defiant newsletter and the Defiant podcast.
I'm an investor.
I know.
I don't know if people know that. I'm an investor. I think what she's doing is amazing. She by far is probably from the beginning been the absolute best at covering all of that kind of sector of the world.
Yes, great perspective. To watch the full conversation, there's a link down below in the video description. And if you're interested in making money and learning about cryptocurrency, click subscribe. We drop a video every day. You do not want to miss one. See you tomorrow.